And good evening. Welcome to our program here on CPHS 6. It's a pleasure to have you along as we get our first chance to sit down and talk with the new superintendent of the Port Huron Area School District, Michael Jones. Thank you for taking time to come in and talk with us and what I'm sure has been a bit of a busy schedule your first month and a half on the job.
Yes, it has been, and thank you for inviting me.
We had an opportunity to meet you during the interview process right here on Channel 6 for anybody that didn't get to the interviews in person. So we ought to give a little background, a little history lesson for everybody to get reacquainted with you, because it has been a while since those interviews aired. A little bit of your track record, if you will, and how you ended up coming to the Port Huron Area School District.
This is the beginning of my 11th year in public education. I worked in 3 other districts other than this. Prior to coming to public education, I retired from a major corporation in the country. My last assignment was in Spokane, Washington, and my initial motivation was to come to the Midwest so I could go visit my mother on a weekend or 2 a month. However, that got interrupted with her, or it got changed with her death, which occurred during the first interview. I grew fond of the place. It's a wonderful place to live. I saw that my first trip here, and actually I said to myself, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. And when the job was offered, I was delighted to come here, and I'm still delighted.
Why the switch from corporation to public education?
I retired. However, it wasn't quite that simple. I had before I left college, I'd done a master's degree in education and had done my preparation to teach. So I had education in the back of my head. I didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm looking for something to do. Matter of fact, among the publications that I regularly bought were the Chronicle of Education. That's one that has news about colleges, and Ed Week. So, you know, and I read other things about education. I kept up with it over the years.
Tell me a little bit about your family.
I'm married for 39 years. It's either 38 or 39. My wife must be watching. I have 2 children. Both of them are adults. And we're happily married. Everything's fine. You
talked earlier about one of the Chronicles, articles, magazines that you like to read. You are quite the avid reader, I understand.
I read a lot. I promise myself to read a minimum of 1 book a week. And sometimes I'll get up to 3.
That's a pretty ambitious goal, considering the schedule you're keeping these days.
Well, people look at television for 25, 30 hours a week. Why can't you read a book? As a matter of fact, I'm living in temporary quarters, if you will, at the time. My wife will be here in hopefully the next 5 or 6 weeks. We're attempting to buy a home. But I don't have a television. And that's by design, because I don't want to look at television. I want to read. You know, I read the Wall Street Journal, I read Newsweek, I read whatever book I've chosen for that week, and sometimes 2 or 3 books. Depends. This week I'll probably read probably 2 at the schedule I'm going.
Wall Street Journal and so on are not really light, fun reading. Do you have any?
I read primarily for education. I want to continue. That's my way to continue my own personal development. Every now and then I'll read something for fun, but I can count the times in a year that I'll just pick up something and say I'm reading it because I just want to entertain myself. But I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. The fact that I like reading as much as I do, to some extent, suggests that I'm getting some entertainment from it, okay?
Yep.
I just don't read lightweight material.
Well, I'll let you continue to read the Wall Street Journal. I'll scan it as I need to, or am instructed to. You also like to do a little fishing, I understand, and there's a bit of water around here. Have you had a chance to wet a line yet?
I've fished probably 6 or 7 times since I've been here.
And have you made your own fish dinner on what you hauled in?
No, I don't cook fish. That's a complex dinner. A good dinner for me to cook right now is a can of Bush's baked beans and a hot dog. So I'm not cooking fish. That's more complex than I want to deal with, okay?
All right, well, we've had a chance to learn a little bit about you. You have to be on such a steep learning curve, even a month and a half into the job. During the interview process, you talked a bit about that's the way it's going to be, because there is so much for you to learn. Have there been any surprises in terms of that learning curve?
No. It's one of those, activities that requires intense examination of a lot of documents. Talk to as many people as possible, then associate those conversations back with the documents, and it just takes time. I know there's been some pressure for me to make a statement about what I'm going to do, and this is a good time to talk about that. Frankly, don't know what I'm going to do. The objective of a school district is to continue to, in an effective manner, move it ahead. It's a continuous process. There is no destination. It's a journey. It's a journey that begs for excellence. And so I will, at some point, have a plan that enhances that search for excellence. Okay, but the search never ends. It isn't as if I could sit here and say, 4.5 years from now, we will be where we want to go. We could have 4,500 years and not be where we want to go. But what I could say 4.5 years from now is that we have routing, if you will, that is taking us in the appropriate direction.
Do you have any kind of a timetable as to when you can start formulating the basis, the groundwork for?
No, I'm not going to make that commitment, because I'm responsible for too many lives to shoot from the hip. So I don't know the answer to that. I may have something in my head, but it would be rude on my part for me to discuss that at this point. I'm not ready. I've been here 30 days.
What have you learned in terms of, say, the structure of the Port Huron Area School District and the way it's set up compared to previous districts you've been with, or
all of those that I've worked for have been set up similarly. The district has been ran well. We have all of the components that are operating very effectively to move ahead as swiftly as possible. I'm a new navigator, and I'm checking the course. Okay.
Mm-hmm. You've come in at a pretty critical time in the future of the Port Huron Area School Districts. Not insignificant issues. Contract talks, 3 top administrators no longer with the district for various reasons. Some pretty steep challenges. Have you faced anything like that in any of your previous?
I was superintendent before coming here, and we had equivalent challenges. Not exactly. The issue is understanding the challenge and moving ahead relative to that challenge effectively. I understand what the challenge is. The organization, again, has been ran in the past well. They did a number of significant things and did them well. And so there's no reason to look back and say, boy, prior to you getting here, Mr. Jones, everything was in shambles. That isn't true. Okay? There is no great organization that does not have a bad day. And if I were to stay here long enough, I would have a bad day. That's just the reality of having a large organization. What I do believe is that whatever the history has been, it's more positive aspects of that history than negative. And I focus on the positive aspects of it, okay? I make an attempt to understand the negative aspects so that I will not visit them again, okay?
What have you been picking up in terms of community response to the district? Because you have had a chance. I know you've been busy with many community groups and organizations, talking to them, introducing yourself personally to them. What kind of feedback are you getting from them in terms of possibly using it to shape your eventual goals?
I think that they want a good school district. They want to have some information about what that is, and they want to have some input. And over the next month or 2 or 3, we're going to give them the opportunity to have that input. And we're going to give it to them in a manner that we capture it and integrate it as appropriate, okay? The goal here is not unlike the goal any place I've been. People want their children to have a quality education, and they want to make sure that we're on course to do that. That is a fair goal, and one that we have to adhere to.
What about in terms of actually just getting school started? Any big challenges right there just to getting the buses rolling and the doors open?
I asked that question with my senior staff just yesterday, and I understand that there are no major issues, okay? We use the summer to recharge our batteries and to do those projects that it's impossible to do while the school's going on. I've gone around and looked at some of the maintenance work that's going on. I've talked to the maintenance people. I've talked to the academic people. I'm assured that we're going to start school without any major difficulties, okay?
Have you had a chance to think about your plans for the first day?
Yes. That's easy to do. I'm going to go to schools on the first day, yes.
plan to try to visit as many as possible, or
I'm going. Well, I'm going to
With
visit as
21
many.
buildings,
I
yes.
don't want to walk in and out. I'm going to try to visit probably 4. Maybe 5. It depends. But I don't want to just walk in and say the superintendent's here. Bye. That's not a visit. That's a pass through. I want to make a visit. So if by my definition of a visit is an hour and a half, that's going to limit the number of stops I can make. I want to go into some classrooms, and I want to shake some teachers' hands, and I want to speak to some students. So that sounds like, to me, an hour and a half per location, okay?
This one may be a little bit of a loaded question. Do you have a favorite level of student to interact with, whether elementary, middle school, high school?
Of course not. Of course
They're
not.
all,
well, no.
They're all neat on their own, in their own way.
Let me make that very clear to you. Of course not.
Okay.
I'm interested in all of my students, and I don't even think of them as students. I think of them as children, because you could be a 90-year-old student. You cannot be a 90-year-old child, at least by my standards. Okay. So no, of course not. No.
I have to admit, I do have some favorites kind of in my mind that I didn't realize I did until I started visiting the schools myself and learning some things about them. And you learn that they all do have their unique aspects, and it's kind of interesting to watch how the principals at the different levels reflect what's going on with the students.
I think
the
a principal or a teacher could say, I prefer to work in elementary, I prefer to work in secondary. My preference is that all of my children have an equal opportunity to a substantial education. And I don't allow myself the luxury of any prejudices whatsoever.
Is there a level where you're going to start, elementary and work your way up, high school and work your way back down? Is it going to depend on the start time of the day?
I have not sorted out where I'm going to go, but more than likely I'm going to go to all of the levels, and I don't know which one I'll start at. I don't think there's any significance in where I start, okay? I haven't started the schedule out. I'll do that in the next few days, okay?
Have you had a chance to visit all of the schools in the district?
I have seen all of the schools. I have not been in all of them, okay? When I was interviewing, actually I made an additional trip here so I could get myself oriented to my responsibilities, and I had a tour of all of the facilities, okay? I guess I've been in maybe building-wise 6 or 7.
How about just the geographical layout of the district? Did that surprise you at all with 120 square miles?
No.
Really?
No. There's some that are considerably bigger than that. And you go to the East Coast and Southeast, there's some county systems that are much bigger than that. There's nothing surprising about that. I knew that before I started interviewing, okay? And, the square mileage here means you're probably at the greatest distance from any given place is maybe 12 or 13 minutes. That's nothing to think about. Whereas if you were in New York City, the traffic alone in a place 7 miles away could make it 35 or 40 minutes.
How does your previous district compare in size to the Port Huron Area School District in terms of students, in terms of staff?
We had 4,200 students. We had total employees 600.
Still a significant number to deal with.
Yeah.
This isn't a daunting task in any way then for you to step up to a
absolutely not. Absolutely not daunting, and if it was, I wouldn't have taken it. It's a different task. It's bigger, but the reality of it is that I deal with a certain number of people, and I deal with a certain number of problems. And if it was 4 times the size, I'd still be dealing with that certain number of people that report to me, and I would prioritize my problem set. I mean, it isn't as if I think I could get to every building every week, every day. It isn't as if I think I can solve all the problems in the district. I solve those that belong to me and stimulate the solving of other problems relative to some set of priorities that we agree to.
You have already made some changes in terms of that executive staff, as you said. Shelley Harding has joined the staff.
I would choose a different level of vocabulary. That wasn't a change. I brought a person in with the permission of the board and put it in a job that was vacant. That's not a change.
All right, made an addition to the staff.
Yeah, okay, because I think it's important that we say it the way it is, and that's in addition to staff, okay?
And there is still some additions to be made.
We're in the process of hiring an assistant superintendent, and we are in the process of hiring a principal, and we're in the final stages of that as we speak.
So hopefully we'll have some discussion on that the next time we get together.
Yes, yes.
Do you see any other major changes in terms of the administration building?
You're asking me the question we just spoke about a few minutes ago. It's too early for me to announce any changes. As a matter of fact, I'm resisting any feelings along those lines because they would be prejudices versus assessments at this point, and I can't afford any prejudices, as I earlier said, okay?
Not trying to trip you up.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm just making it clear because people are watching, and I want them to know how I'm feeling and how I'm thinking, okay? And I didn't see anybody tripping me up at all.
During the interview process, you did mention 100 days as kind of a magic mark, I guess, to look ahead that you would have a better idea.
100 days is not a magic time. It's 3 months and a few days. I keep that as a marker in my head, but again, none of those things mean anything other than when I was at the last job, I issued a report at the end of 100 days. I may elect to issue my report here at the end of 200. It depends upon the complexity of what I'm looking at and how deep I think I have to go on various issues. It was just the point where I made a commitment to my superiors and my constituents that, let me tell you what I think we need to do, folks. You know, this year was planned by my predecessors, and I can't change much about this year. The years after this will belong to me, and I will be totally responsible. I'm totally responsible for this one, but I will be totally responsible for the content of those. And I have plenty of time to work with students, work with parents, work with administrators to decide how we're going to navigate this ship, okay? And I want to take that time.
The parental involvement has always seemed, at least as long as I've been with the district, an important aspect here. The parents are very involved in their children's education. Have you been able to pick that up at all in your meetings with groups and organizations around town?
I think that I've been able to pick that up, but I think I picked it up before I got here. Much of the pressure that's on the school district, if you will, is from parents, and parents wanting an environment where they can be assured again that their child is moving ahead effective in their education. So, and I encourage that. I say this, and I'll say it over and over again. Parents are the inspector generals of the school system. Someone asked me hours ago about the interview process because of another conversation we were having, and I said it was fair for each board member to be extremely critical of me. You wouldn't turn your most precious asset over to somebody and not know who they are or suspect that you know who they are at least, okay? So parents ought to be critical daily, nightly, hourly about what we're doing. And in addition to that, not only should they be critical, but they should join us in lockstep to help facilitate the child's learning. Matter of fact, I would argue that in most instances, if the parents are not working with us, we can't get to the level of excellence I'd like to see us reach, okay? I happen to be reading a book about reading right now, and one of the things that's clear to me is that if we can get parents to work with kids in preschool, kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, we can change the child's ability to read, we can change the child's appreciation for reading. We do that at school, but some of these things need to be reinforced at home. That may be true of arithmetic, that may be true of history, and sometimes you can have integrated lessons, you can do all of them the same time. But as I like to fondly say, kids look at television 27.5 hours a week. If I can get 5 or 6 of those at home, I think we can do a miracle.
That will be interesting to see how you take the parental involvement and customize it, I guess, to the way you'd like to see the parents involved. There have been...
I think the parents ought to say something like this. They ought to talk about how they want to be involved. What I think our responsibility is to give them some kind of forecast about what their involvement will mean. And then they need to tell us how they think they can accommodate that need, okay? And sometimes we have to work with them to let them understand how important it is for them to be involved. On a continuous basis, K through 12, not just K through 6, or K through 8, K through 12.
But you obviously noticed a drop-off as the child starts getting older in other districts.
It's a national phenomenon. It's not, you know, you can work around here and not understand it. And to some extent it's understandable. When kids go to high school, they see themselves as young adults. They don't want their mother, father coming up talking to the math teacher about homework, okay? I'm the first to say that there are those instances where the parent needs to come to the high school and talk about the math homework or the science homework, okay?
There have been parental group meetings, and both at the district level and the building level. Are those something you expect to see continue, and do you have any?
I have nothing at this point that I want to stop, and if I had something, I certainly wouldn't stop parents meeting. I invite parents to call me. I usually give them a home telephone number. I'm in the process of relocating, so I don't have that right now. I encourage them to call me by phone. I encourage them to come see me. Now, it's a lot of people, so I can't talk to 10,000 people a year, but if an issue is pressing and they need to see me, I'll make myself available.
In terms of the communication, you're already sitting here talking with us and giving everybody a chance to meet you a little bit. How about overall communication with the parents, the teachers, the other staff, the community in general? Is that something you look to expand upon more than just being here on Channel 6 or radio or newspaper interviews?
The name of the game is communications. Everything, and it's an essential part of my job is communications. Yesterday, as you know, at senior staff, a question came up about, these are my words, when is Mr. Jones going to announce what he's doing? And I looked over at you and I said, we need to have a schedule. They need to know what my schedule of communications is going to be, okay? It's very important. Matter of fact, there's probably no single other thing I do more important than making sure that people understand what it is we're trying to do, understand what it is I'm trying to do, and understand those areas that I'm trying to impact with whatever influence I have, okay? So we're talking about communications, okay?
Any perceptions about the district in terms of the media that you've been able to pick up on in the month and a half?
No, I think that the media responds to what they see. And sometimes they respond to what they suspect is there that they can't see. What I feel assured of is that we're going to operate in time in a manner that's credible enough that we don't have to do a whole lot of worrying. If I do something this evening after work that's going to be in the news and it doesn't favor me, I've done something this evening after work that doesn't favor me. Okay, so therefore I try to avoid that type of thing. Okay, if we operate the school district the way it's supposed to be operated, it will not be controversy-free. But the controversy in a democracy ought to be laid out on the table for us. It's like clay for us to massage. There is no such thing as in a democracy as controversy-free. Actually, in a democracy, you want a little turbulence. It suggests that it's like the lid on a kettle with boiling hot water bounce up and down. Controversy suggests that the processes of democracy are working.
It's constantly evolving.
It's constantly evolving, right? And so it's not always smooth.
We talked about the executive staff you want to meet, the teachers on a one-to-one basis as you go. How about the Board of Education? Have you had a chance? You've been through basically one board meeting, your first one. How about your relationship with the board? Is that starting to form?
I think it is forming. You got to remember that the board made a real major decision, and that's the hiring of a new superintendent. So to some extent, you're creating a base right there. I think like any new group of people getting together, there's some things we have to sort out. I have no reason to believe, nothing critical, I have no reason to believe that we won't work very effectively together, okay? I'm looking forward to that, and all of the early signals I get suggest that, okay? They're in fact my bosses. Okay, so there's a boss-subordinate relationship, as it should be, but I have no reason to believe that that won't be fulfilling and that it won't be supportive of those kinds of things that are in the best interests of children and this community.
Have your perceptions changed at all from what you were looking forward to most when you came here to now having a chance to get around a little bit and meet some of the people in the community?
Not one iota. No, absolutely not. The fishing places are where I thought they'd be. The children are as I thought they would be. The adults are as I thought they would be. I know how to get to church, and I have my books. Nothing's changed. Okay, when we talk in the wintertime, I may be cringing a little bit, but I've lived in cold weather before, so.
Well, I hope you're not getting used to this as a typical Michigan summer. This has been really a nice summer for Michigan, and I'm just a little worried, as you say, we get to winter and we're going to pay for the lovely summer we had. Did you have to deal with school closings and things in previous districts because of weather?
I dealt with school closings. However, I've never closed one. But I dealt with that. We had snow, and I dealt with that. I was on the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning and so on, but I've never closed one. So should that occur, that'll be a new experience for me, okay? And that's a delicate, you know, there's no such thing as routine closing of schools. So we had snow, and we had bad weather, and we had cold weather. But I don't think we had, well, I know we did not have as much as you have here, okay?
Sports fan?
I like all sports.
I'm just thinking, we got football coming up. We're going to see...
I'll be at the football games or some of them.
See at the game, Northern and PH football games over at Memorial Stadium. Is that another one of those ways you'll be out communicating?
I'll be out there and meeting people as they come in and out of the stadium. You know, I have to choose. One of the real interesting things about this job, I have more invitations and more places I can go than I could possibly go. What I try to do is go as many places as I can where my children are. And then I have, you know, other responsibilities to the community to belong to other things, and I will do so. But I will be at some of the games on Friday night.
And that segues right into boys and girls basketball and volleyball, and no shortage of activities for you to be out. And
I could go every day, all day, 7 days a week, and that's not possible, and for a number of reasons. But I choose those activities where I believe I can sort of spread my time out among the community and among the children.
If there's one thing you wanted to tell everybody in the district as the new superintendent, what would it be?
I would say to them that we need your support and we need to move ahead. You know, sometimes people can get bogged down in history or some events. We need to move ahead. The single greatest invention that's ever occurred is forgiveness, if you want to call it an invention, okay? You need to have a heart of thanksgiving and forgiveness and move ahead. That's what I'd say.
Well, we'll keep that in mind and hopefully get you back here to talk a little bit more as you learn more about the district and we learn more about you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking some time out to come in and get acquainted.
It's my pleasure.
And thank you for joining us here on CPHS 6. We will hopefully continue the program with Michael Jones, the superintendent of the Port Huron Area School District, in the future. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you have a comment or a question, drop it in the mail. We'll bring it up on the program and let your question be the questions that guide us through the half hour. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.